Hey everyone, welcome back to the Investor Evolution podcast. And if you're new to us, welcome. Today we have a special guest, Miss Amber McCollum, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about capital raising, we're going to talk about our journey in real estate. We're going to dive into some of the things that we can deal with on our journey. So, Amber, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, you are one of the first people that I met. I met so many people when I got into this journey, and we did a podcast already, but we both changed and pivoted and are doing different things. And so I just love that we kept in touch so much, and I love your friendship. And so I really am really happy to be here.
Yay.
Thank
Well, I'm so excited too. Yeah, so we had done this Project Forward, which was kind of this social media promotion group, I guess. And this was one of the things that we were tasked with doing was starting a podcast. And so a lot of us interviewed each other and it was really fun. And it was a great way to get to know each other and, develop friendships. And so I am grateful that we have been able to build from there. So, what I want to start with, we're going to just kind of do an overview of Amber and where you started in real estate. And just to preface that, my audience is more kind of newer investors, people still trying to figure it out, trying to understand where their place is and maybe where their focus is going to be, because there's so much to do in real estate, right? So, there's so many ways you can be involved. So, I would love to hear from you how you came into it and then kind of how you evolved to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. I started wholesaling, which I hated. I feel like it was successful because I did two deals with partners, not by myself. But I think a lot of times people say that's the entry into real estate. And I just don't have that belief anymore. I think you can really start anywhere else. There's so many things, like you said, that you can be doing. But that's where I thought I had to start. And so I did. And I was just like, if this is this is real estate. It is not for me. So I changed and pivoted and I found something called the Gator Method. And so I joined and I really learned about lending. And so I set on this journey to be a private money lender, which I am. I've finally reached. It took a long time to get there, but I reached that goal. And and then I just realized I'm good at the money side of things. Like I do that in my 9 to 5. I like talking about money. I like being capital raiser, for a little bit. I call myself a connector, and I think that that was an important role. It had some aspects of networking and different things, and so I like people for sure. And so I like learning about people and connecting them together. And I just don't feel like that box fits me anymore. I've learned and grown and been through a few stressful situations, a lot of good situations. And so now I think I've moved more into kind of two things. One being capital raising for a fund, which should be launched very soon. Um, and I really want to lean into that. And then the other thing is I'd like to do more public speaking. So um, about mindset and real estate and all of that stuff. So over a very short period of time, and by short period of time, I'm talking about like a year and a half, I have pivoted a lot of times. And so um, I'm excited. I feel like I'm in a good space. So
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of us came into this thinking we had to wholesale. And I'm thankful that I think the culture is shifting a little bit, especially in some of the groups that we're in, that it has become evident that you don't have to start there. Some people do it and love it. And that's like their niche, however you say that word. Awesome. Great. I hated it also. I want nothing to do with wholesaling. So tell me about as you've kind of, well, what I want to talk about, you still have a W-2. And how have you found a flow between real estate investing and that W-2? I hate the word balance because there is no such thing as balance, right? There's
sure.
there's that teeter totter, right? Of, where your attention is going. So how has that worked for you? And how have you overcome some of the struggles with that? Because you travel a lot with your job. So I know that's been one of the things that has been something you're dealing with too.
That's a really tough question and a really thoughtful one. Um, well, I need a thoughtful answer to that because you're right, there's no balance. So my work when I first really got into real estate, I was transitioning W-2s and I started really slow as far as workload and it has increased and increased and increased. My travel schedule has gotten, bigger and and before I even get into that, let me just say it's okay to have a W-2 and do real estate
Mhm.
at the same time. That is an okay thing for some people. I think people have beliefs that, "Oh, I need to go full in," and if you're not ready for that transition, I don't think you should go into that transition. I'm not ready for that. Some of it is for monetary reasons, but stability more, consistency
Mhm.
more. Some of it's because I need healthcare, and I have had more than one person come and say, "Oh, but you can get healthcare elsewhere. Do not let that be a limiting belief." And I just wanna say that everybody's journey is different. So
Mhm.
if you need to stay in a job, stay in a job. Now to get back in your question about how do I incorporate it all? It's really tough. And I have some really awesome moments. I do a lot on the weekends and after work hours. And that's hard when you get down to connecting with people because that's primarily what I need to do. So I have to find a balance there. More so, I think that I'm drained. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired and I've been at this grind for a long time, and so to keep the mental fortitude to just be like, "You have to do this, you're creating something bigger, you want financial freedom," and I have a why. Like,
Mhm.
I know my purpose, and I know what I'm trying to do, and I think that keeping that at the forefront is what keeps me going, but it's also okay to recognize it's hard and there
Mhm.
can be tough days and days you don't wanna do it. So, yeah.
Two things. I do appreciate that sentiment that it's okay to have a W-2. I agree that there's also that push too. If you're coming into real estate investing, just like dive in, burn the boats, go all in and you have no choice but to go for it. But for some people, that isn't an option. Maybe they are the breadwinner of their family. And until you have a steady income coming in with that, that is irresponsible and insane and doesn't make sense for them, but for someone else, that may be the way they have to do it in order to get the momentum that they need. And again, like you said, we each have our journey, we each have our own reasons for why. And I think for me, that stability piece is kind of what you said is having that stable platform, that foundation to be able to launch from uh, is is a reason why I still have one. Is why I'm still on a W-2 for that very reason. So I thank you for that point. And then 2, as far as having those times where it is hard and you're in the grind and you're in the work, how do you keep those what do you do? Is there something that you do to kind of help keep that why present? Sometimes I lose that in the midst of that journey. So how have you kept it so present for yourself?
Entrepreneurship isn't for everybody,
Mhm.
period. And I think we see that. Like, I think we see people drop off. I see people I met a year ago who just say, I'm not doing it anymore. I tried to build credit. I wanted to do this or that. Um, and that's okay. That's their choice. I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm past the point of no return for a lot of reasons. And I think that's what keeps me going because I have invested a lot in myself. And I think that you should. Like, I've joined a lot of masterminds, I've learned a lot of things. Every single one of them, I have joined a lot of masterminds that fit with my goals. That costs a lot of money. And when you think about the cost benefit, it's like, am I just gonna like, I think for me, I would feel like a failure if I just quit. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should feel like a failure if you quit. It might not be for you.
Mhm.
Personally, I would. And I think that keeps me going. I also think a good support system, like good partners, help you when one's up and one's down, then you can kind of balance that out and say, well, I'm going to carry this load for you today. And so I think having people who know what you're doing, like people that are not in entrepreneurship that don't know the grind, they do tell you to just stop. They just say, "You can just stop." Like, you don't have to keep going at this pace. And, I got really sick in July and I've still been sick. And I had so many friends and family just say, "You're doing too much. You need to stop. Like, you literally just need to stop." And that's hard to hear because in the moment you're feeling so tired and run down and you're like, maybe I do need to stop. And so, um, I I just think you have to know your why. I think one of the things that helps me is, I review my goals multiple times a day. I have them written down,
Mhm.
even the mini goals. Like I have larger goals and then mini goals under there, and every single day I look at them, and I've checked off some of them, and so I think these are my goals. Like, this is what I wanted to do. If you don't do these goals, you're impacting you. Like, you set this out. And yeah, and I mean, I think I've made money, I've earned money, but I've also spent a lot of money. And I feel like if I would have just made money and maybe used that personally for myself and not reinvested it, maybe I'd feel more like walking away. But because I reinvested it, it's like, no, like I'm here, I'm doing this. I'm not going to be one of those people that walk away. Now I may pivot, but there's a point of no return and I'm there for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm. As you come into it, I think kind of going back to the whole wholesaling thing and how we feel like we all have to start there. I think a lot of us, I'll talk for me. I came into it thinking like, okay, I'm gonna get there really quickly. Like this is gonna work really fast. And my mindset has shifted to like I'm playing that long game and it's okay. And maybe this season right now, I'm running and I'm making lots of progress, but maybe that next season is a season of slowing. And that's okay. It's okay to have those shifts as long as you're still moving forward, versus the just throwing your hands up and saying I'm done. And I think, you kind of have had those seasons as well. We talk about goals. I wanted to touch on that. Um, and so you have, your bigger goals, your overall goals, you have mini goals. How have you structured that, or what are some tips or, advice you have for others who are like, man, I have these goals, but sometimes they seem like so far out there and I don't even know how to get to them. What advice can you give in that region?
Yeah, I think reverse engineering, like see yourself. This is going to sound the cheesiest thing that I'm about to say, but I think you should see yourself in 25 years, 15 years, 10 years. Like, what do you want to be there?
Mhm.
And once you figure out what that looks like how much you wanna be making, what does success look like? And it might not be monetary
Okay.
either. Um, what does success look like for you? Does it look like you have your time back? Does it look like, you are spending more time traveling or it is monetary, like you can be a philanthropist if you want to. Like, look at where you wanna be there and reverse engineer, like, how do I get there? If I wanna be a billionaire, how do I get to be a billionaire? Like, what do I need to do? What skill sets do I have to get there? What do I find joy in?
Mhm.
Because I also think that part of it and some of it's gonna be hard and you won't find joy in it, but I think you going into entrepreneurship, it has to be something that you love, and that's why I leaned into the money part of it because I
Mhm.
didn't love the rest. And I don't wanna really be a landlord. Like, I don't wanna be I see all of that. I see evictions, I see lawsuits. It's like, that's not for me. And sometimes it's hard to hear that or see that because I look at other people and I see that they're acquiring so many properties and it's like, "Ooh," like, they're making so much cash flow and cash flow is king and all of these things. And then it's like, but do I wanna do even if I had an ops manager, even if I had a team, like, do I really want to do that? Do I want to be in those lawsuits? Is that what I want to be? No.
Mhm.
Do I want to take equity in things later as a capital partner, but be hands off? Yes. So I still want to own things. But I think I had to come to the realization that money is my skill set. Like money, talking, people, those are my skill sets. And so those skill sets that I have will get me to the next phase. And what does that look
Mhm.
like? So originally it was just meeting and networking and
Mhm.
connecting with a lot of people who had money. Um, and then and connecting people who needed money. So that was part of it. And then I realized, you know what? I think I've cracked the code on capital raising. I I didn't know I was good at it until other people started saying, "How much have you raised? Like, that's a lot of money." And, so then I realized, okay, like, I'm gonna lean into this, and the next
Mhm.
step to that would be a legal structure, which is a fund, and, and I had to delay instant gratification because I was making money coming in right away, and now I'm not. Like, I know that the long-term goal of operating a fund, and I have all kind of goals on operating different funds in the future,
Mhm.
more complicated things, acquiring more, like, I know everybody needs money, everybody needs capital. That is something everybody needs, and if you're
Mhm.
good at raising capital, then you have something everybody needs that's sustainable, and, so I see myself in those outward things, but I also know I had to reverse engineer what does starting a fund look like?
Mhm.
You know, what skill sets do I need? What education do I need? What masterminds do I need? What legal team do I need? And so that's been a long journey. I made that decision a little bit before January, and it has taken a lot. And I just want to, I know I'm rambling at this point, but I want to add one more thing. When you decide to do something, I think it's so important to not know how hard that thing's going to be, because if you may think, "I don't wanna do it." And so it seemed so easy. It was like, "Ah, just need a thesis, a pitch, and legal structure." And it's a lot harder than that. Like,
Mhm.
thinking through it, thinking through what your lend box will be, you know, there's a lot of time and effort and energy that goes into that. And so I would say if you have those goals, get started on them and focus on the daily things that it takes to make it happen, not all the big hard things that it's going to take
Mhm.
months and months and months for you to get to, but just what actions do I need to take today to move forward? And
Mhm.
I think that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. So taking those big goals, reverse engineering, and then taking those bite-sized chunks, right? So today, what do I need to do? And just it's like that chipping away. And again, this is where that like this is the long game. It's okay if it takes a little bit. And I think we all find that we kind of it may be real slow, and then I think there's going to be that takeoff. But you have to get through the tough the tough parts, and you don't know what those are necessarily, and obstacles will pop up as you're going. What skills do you feel like you've acquired over your lifetime that has helped you when these obstacles, unexpected, or the ones that you can see coming? What skills do you feel like have been most helpful in navigating those obstacles?
That's a tough question. I feel like I've always been a resilient person,
Mhm.
but I think resilience is what's gotten me through. I think that in some regards, it's been I don't really have a choice but to just
Mhm.
go to the end. Like, I
Mhm.
think, what does it look like to just blow up and walk away? And that looks like defeat. It looks like a waste of money. It looks like leaving people behind that, I've made a lot of friendships. Um, and I know that sounds silly to be like the community or the friendships or the people that you're showing up for is really it's not really a skill set, but it is a skill set. Like, I love people.
Mhm.
And coming out of this connecting phase into launching a fund and doing all of these things, I've had to stay with the connections I've made and these deals, because as a connector, you stay in the deal the whole time.
Mhm.
And some of them have been stressful because, I think just in general, the market's changed. It's different. I think refinances take a long time. And
Mhm.
so I've noticed that there's been a couple late things. And you find out who you are and who other people are when you're going through that kind of situation.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot about integrity, my own. I learned a lot about other people and what they're willing to do or say or, you know, threaten. Like it's I think getting to the other side of truly loving people is that's the skill. That's what keeps you going, like
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's that grit, right? Because, like you said, it's not like you can just stop and walk away. It's that grit in that season of uncomfortableness, right? Of being able to push forward. And I think I think maybe the other beauty of our community is we're in this creative community. So I think a lot of times when we hit those obstacles, there's probably that immediate reaction of frustration.
yeah.
And then we can take that deep breath and be like, okay, how can we? How can we
Mhm.
pivot? How can we use this? What creative ways can we find to make this work? How can we work together? I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've seen is and in talking with people, there are so many deals right now that are rough. Like people are having sometimes, right? And then there's a lot of obstacles. And the people who have had the communications and like that communication is open, even though it's frustrating, even though things are going bad on both sides and the borrowers are, they don't want to be in the situation. Obviously, the lenders don't want to be in that situation, but they're in it together. And I like to say like it's like a doubles game of tennis. You're on the same side of the net. You are working together. You're not opponents. You are trying to work together. And when we think of it like that and like we're all on the same side, we're all just trying to make it work, it feels like a much different situation than when you're the opponent, and trying to win the game, right? Uh, so I think that is kind of what I'm pulling from you is that it's really a matter of staying in it, despite the discomfort, because it is and it's not fun.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then kind of pulling those resources. The other thing you talked about is you are a natural at talking about money. And you said you've cracked the code of capital raising, but what do you feel like those skills are and what is the magic sauce for you that has helped you with capital raising?
For me, and I read a lot of books and I've done a lot of masterminds and taken a lot of courses, and some I just completely disagree with. Like, I get the sentiment. I've read books and it's like, okay, I get this. I get what a pitch is. I get what what a sales call is. And maybe it's just that I'm not to the level that I need to be. And maybe I'll have to pivot again and change and learn more skill sets. But I feel that it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to close a deal because I when I'm capital raising, first of all, it's very personal for me, but second of all, I think everybody has a different why. And if you are raising capital and you are pitching a deal and talking about safety and talking about paperwork and talking about all the things, I think you could be losing something huge, which is everybody does that. Like, what does the person on the other side, what do they want? Why do they want to give their money to the deal that you're talking about?
Mhm,
And there's so many different reasons, and I think you have to know that right from the beginning. Some people, they do care about safety, and if they care about safety, then that's gonna be what I'm talking about most of the time. If they care about the deal itself, and I'm not saying that you don't talk about all these things at some point, but if they care about the deal itself, like a specific class of properties, then I think you can talk about that. You can educate more about that. If they care about education, I think you can go into that. If they
mhm.
care about being part of a community, I think you can give them that. some people want to save the day. Some people want to know that if they lend you their money, that they are going to be changing the trajectory of your business. And you can talk about that. And
Mhm.
I think for so many capital raisers, it's all about the sales or the overcoming objections. And
Mhm.
for me, I don't necessarily try to overcome objections. I lean into them
Mhm.
because I also think that not every lender is a good fit for every deal. And I'm
Right.
not a beggar, and neither are the deals that I'm raising for. And if somebody expresses disinterest or fear, it's kinda like, "Okay, this is probably not the deal for you." I don't say that as a sales pitch. I literally say, I don't think you should do this deal." And a lot of times, that actually turns into a positive situation because they'll walk away from that deal and come into another one because
Mhm.
they trust you more. I also think that just going through some of this stuff that I've gone through, one of my main questions at this point is, where's this money coming from? And is this your last dollar? And if something goes
Mhm.
late, as it does in real estate, can you sustain an extra 6 months if it's going to be an extra 6 months? Or is this going to like hurt really badly?
Mhm.
And if they say, no, 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 I can't go past it, then you're not a good fit for this deal. And I'll walk away from it. So to me, I think cracking the code is just knowing what's best for the deal and knowing what's best for the lender
Mhm.
and knowing the synergy there. Do you have it? Do you know what they want? And can you give people what they want? And can you also align your priority and statuses? Like, I think no one should be like above each other. I think you should be an expert and that they should value you as an expert. But if a lender feels like I'm the expert and this deal wouldn't get done without me, and they kind of devalue the deal a little bit or devalue the borrower a little bit and act in a way that's a little bit egotistical because they have the capital, I also will turn away. And that sounds crazy, but it's like, no, I've seen it. I've been in enough deals. You're the one that 2 weeks down the road, if something doesn't go your way, you feel like it's, you're in charge, and that's not true. Operators have to operate. And
Mhm.
you as a lender, you know, sure, you need communication, you need updates, but you're not in charge of the deal. And so I think just learning those personalities and knowing how to pair people up in that way, I think that that's really my strategy and that's really helped a lot. And I think going into the fund, it'll be just that. We're gonna have a fund. Here's what your returns will be. If you're all about returns, it's gonna be a pretty high return for the fund.
Mhm.
For the fund model, a lot of fund models are syndications and they're very low returns. A lot of single family private money lending is 12% and that's it. And our fund's gonna be higher than that. We're going to be compliant. We're going to have SEC rules around it. You're going to know exactly what you're getting. You're going to have a data room where everybody sees everything. You're going to have transparency. And if that's the kind of safety you want and that's the kind of return you want, then that's going to be good. If it's not, if you want something short and sweet, which ends up generally being longer anyway,
Mhm.
then, and so I think the skill set is not just knowing what people want, although I think that's the number one thing. I think
Mhm.
knowing when to walk away from
Mhm.
money is very, very, very valuable.
Mhm.
And I think you should walk away from money that's not worth it.
Yeah. And I think that's really good advice. But, one of the things that you've talked about is, money's out there, money's available, and you can find it. And not putting all your hope on one person, I think is also a good model to live by, especially while you're capital raising and in this space for money, because you're the money girl. Why do you feel like that has been an easy place for you to communicate, and how do you feel like that came about? Is that something from your W-2 that allowed you to feel like just comfortable having conversations about money? Because I do think it can be a contentious conversation for some people. And so how did that become like your second language, I guess?
I really don't know. I did it. in this at the state level, I did manage as a program manager over 1.2 billion dollars a year. So I think you have to know federal regulations. You have to take that seriously as taxpayer dollars. So I think just the seriousness of money,
Uh-huh.
that's part of it. But then I don't know. I just have a strong feeling, especially as my mindset's changed on the fact that we don't have an education system that teaches about financial literacy.
Mhm.
And so I just have feel so passionate about it. And I I feel badly that people feel uncomfortable about it. So I try to make people feel as comfortable as possible. And I've really leaned into that. And part of it has been a growing skill set, right? A growing um being being uncomfortable. I will talk about it anywhere. I'll talk about it. I'm famous at this point for talking about it with my Uber drivers. Like I talk about investing everywhere I go. I talk about it in the grocery store. I talk about it every event I go to that's not even about investing. When people say, and I don't just be like, "Hey, do you have money?" Like I don't start there.
Mhm.
Generally the most common question in our society is, "What do you do?" Which is sad. Like,
Mhm.
when as Americans, you walk in, you network with somebody, just let's say you're at a new church or wherever you are. I'm not talking about like at a real estate event, but somewhere that's just random. People will be like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do?" Which tells you the value of work that we have
Mhm.
in this country. But I use that as an opportunity to say I'm a private money lender. And people are like, "Oh, what does that?" I mean, I also do other things, right? But being having people be curious about that
Mhm.
will get into a money conversation immediately. Like, a private money lender, what does that mean? People automatically assume I have a lot of money. I have a little bit of money that I can lend, and that was from growing lines of credit, And so I tell them I'm a small fish, like one day I'll be a big fish, but I'm a small fish and everybody can do it and you can do it too. And a lot of I'll stop there. And a lot of times it's the the magnetism of people asking what does that
Mhm.
mean leads me into those conversations. So I really just leverage the most common question that I feel like is out there, which is what do you do, into
Mhm.
turning into a conversation. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's great. And I think some people feel like it has to be like so difficult. How do I start these conversations? And so just a little tidbit of practical advice is huge. I think that is a good place to start with whatever you're doing, whether you are fix and flipping or you are, a buy and hold investor or you are private money lending or you're building a fund, whatever it is, it doesn't have, we make it so complicated. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the because you said you've done a lot of masterminds and mentorships and how has that shaped you? How has that built you up and what has been the benefits of those for you?
so for masterminds, I think each different mastermind comes with a unique thing that you need. Some masterminds for me, it's education. Most masterminds for me, it's network. I think the larger your network is, the the more people you know, the more successful you'll be. Your business is successful because of people. Every business. And you can track that any business you're talking about, whether it's fix and flipping, even outside of real estate, business acquisitions, anything that you're doing, there's a people component to it. Somebody has something that you need. Somebody has a connection that you need. You have a connection that somebody else needs. I'm a big proponent of leading with value. And so I think anytime you can grow your network, that it's a win. And so for me, masterminds, I've chosen specifically masterminds that fit into my goals. And so I can help learn from those people in those masterminds and grow my network.
Mhm.
And I constantly try to grow my network. Those masterminds that have live events, I try to go. There's something about meeting people in person that's just different, and
Mhm.
and it's a different kind of bond. And so the education component for sure. Like I don't always go through all the courses. I'll reference them when I have a question. I'm a learn by doing type person. And so it's like, uh-oh. I need to know this answer. So let me go to this mastermind and scroll through the course and figure
Mhm.
this out. Some of them I've gone through the courses where it's been really, really good. But I think for me, it's the networking.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. Well, and that just goes back to your skill set and what you do well,
You know,
and kind of your superpower, I think, is connecting with people, helping them feel seen, feel heard, feel valued as a person, not as an opportunity, but as a person. And I think that is why you're most successful, is because you value people. And I think that's super huge.
why do you join masterminds?
Well, yeah, for me, it's education first, because it feels like, if there's something that like I'm trying to go into, and I need to learn about it, that is the first thought. But 100%, it's the networking. We had a investment that I talked to you about, and I was debating whether or not I wanted to do it. And the reason why I decided to invest in that, honestly,
Really?
was
Really?
not because of the investment. I think the investment will be great. I think it'll do well. I think it'll be awesome. But that wasn't what the kicker was. When I was talking to the fund manager, he's like, "I just want to let you know, like, once you come in, you're going to be on Zooms with all the other investors. You're going to get the weekly update." And I was like, "That's it. That's what I'm investing in, is that room, is being in that room with others who are investing, and probably investing significantly more than I did, but having access to that network."
Absolutely.
So it is
Good.
it is the people for me also. And I think we're similar in that respect. So
Yeah. Well, congratulations, because you're right. That's a huge room. So
we talked about some of the pivots that we've made in our journeys, and you recently, or over the past year and a half, right? You talked about that at the beginning. I guess I want you to talk about that shiny object syndrome, and the difference between chasing those things versus really knowing what you're doing and shifting and having that pivot in your business. I feel like that's more of a focus versus the chasing the shiny objects.
well, there are some people who lead you to shiny objects, and I've learned who those people are, and I steer clear of that because I am a sucker for a sales funnel. They get me, and you know what? I don't even need to watch the hour-long video they try to make you watch. It's like, skip it. I'm here. Like I clicked on this link because I'm ready to sign up. It took me a while to get out of that because I envisioned like, "Oh, I could do that. Like, that's good." And I think part of it's like you said, like, you feel like there's almost a hack or a cheat code for, "Okay, in 6 months, I'm gonna be here." And
Mhm,
I literally did scale pretty quickly, in 5 months, but that was when I was serious and specific and goal oriented to that one particular thing. And
mhm,
so I don't think there's a cheat code to hard work. I think that you do need to get focused. Part of that, I've paid for coaching. Um I've been in accountability groups, and I think that I'm in an extreme accountability group right now, and I say extreme because we have daily things that we have to check off and comment to each other about checking off, and we have to grow by certain percentages, and so, that's also opened my network a little bit. I'm happy about that.
mhm,
But I think once you start seeing some success, like, I do think it's okay to pivot and bolt on different things as you go along, but if you can't master one thing
mhm,
and make that successful, then I really don't think you should move on to the next. There's always an exception to the rule. If that one thing isn't really like, wholesaling really wasn't for me, I tried it and I knew right away, but I didn't give it 6, 7, 8 months and just gave up. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you have a passion for something and you think that's where you're going and you invest your time and energy and money into that thing, master that before you just bring so many other things on. And
mhm,
I think that that's what's making me successful now. I don't think it's wrong to pivot. I question that a lot. Just I've had partnerships that have dissolved, and I've been offered a lot of opportunities that I've turned down. And there's times that I'm just like, "What? Like, was that a right decision?" For me, I have a lot of faith. I try to pray over everything I do. I still have some FOMO sometimes or potential regret. And like, did I go the right path? And I think that you also have to have um, the mental fortitude to get over that, because when you dissolve a partnership or when you see other people who started in the same place you did and offered you an opportunity that you turned down to go another direction, and then you see bam 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 they took off and this happened, it can really hit you in the gut. And then you
Mhm.
think, oh man, like, did I do the right thing? And I think that's the people talk about it, but they don't. Like those down moments, those moments where you're just like, did I do the right thing? All I wanted was, ABCD. My why is I want end of life care. I want, financial freedom. I want to turn my pain into success. I say that a lot. And am I doing it? Yes, I feel like I am. Just like you said, it's the long game.
Mhm.
But when you see other people that fast track their success, especially when it's opportunities that you said no to, you that's those are mental gymnastics that just like,
Mhm.
man, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? And then the next time an opportunity comes up that's gonna derail you from your goals, you think, is this the time? Like, I wish I would have said yes to that
Mhm.
other one. And
Mhm.
so then you have to go back to, what are my goals? Does this fit in my goals and my priorities? And that's why I review them every single day. I think it keeps me grounded. I
Mhm.
think, and I mean, I don't study them. I have them in an iPhone note where it's like, here's my goals. This is what I want to do. And it's kind of like losing weight. I mean, they say if you track your weight, if you track your exercise, if you track your food intake, just by tracking it, it keeps in your mind, and people lose more weight who track it. And I think it's the same thing for goals. Like, I'm tracking my goals. I'm looking at them. I think there are KPIs to doing it. I'm learning how to track like money that I bring in and what works to bring that money in,
Mhm.
and what what types of things that I needed to do. And what's my success rate? I think that's important to track. But yeah, I focus on my goals and realize that I can pivot a million more times too.
Mhm.
And some pivots will be okay. And some I need to say no to. And it's not
Mhm.
because I don't love those people or that project or those things, but it's just not for me, not right
Mhm.
now.
Uh-huh.
And and still maintain happiness and joy for other people's success.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's important too. Like, always love people and always love their success, and don't compare where you are to where they are. Like, if you can master the skill of being happy for somebody else, you're going to receive it back 100%. I think
Mhm.
that that's really important. I don't know if I answered the question, actually.
No, I think that's great. Oh, I think there is a difference between switching and pivoting. And I think of pivoting for me more as like I'm refining that goal and I'm like, okay, now I can see um where I'm staying on course, but just course correcting, like, okay, here's the main goal. And maybe I was going off, okay, enough, I'm coming back. Oh, okay, I'm coming back, and like kind of staying on the course. And it may be a bit different path than I anticipated getting there, but I'm still getting to the main goal. Whereas, and I think the more you start looking for opportunities, the more opportunities you see. And I think that's the harder part, is which are the opportunities that are meant for me and my goals. And so I loved what you said of knowing and staying on course with those goals and turning those goals down or those opportunities down that aren't in alignment with that, even though can it be successful 100%, but that's not where you want to go. And being true to yourself and true to your goals is the bigger thing, and being able to stay on that course, because otherwise you're going to get off track and be like, "Oh man, I should have stayed on that path." So that's how I kind of interpret that. I think there is that tendency to not want to limit what we're doing because we feel like focusing on the one is we're going to miss out on all the other stuff. But when you, like you said, when you can dive deep on that one thing and you can harness that and be successful in that and know exactly how to make that work, that's what's going to make it easier when you shift to the other thing versus pivot, pivot, pivot all the time. And you're, you know, just missing out on all of it.
It's good. I think we're aligned there.
We didn't even get to your speaking. So let's talk about that. Tell me why that came about. Why do you feel like that's something that you're called to?
Okay. I did not know I was called to speak. In fact, I grew up extremely, I've always been a talker. So this is going to be a little bit of a weird story. I've talked a lot, even as a child, but in public, I was scared to talk. Like, even in college, um, there were some weird moments. I had some roommates where they would have people over, there would be a party, and I wouldn't say much. And one of the roommates constantly afterwards would say, "Why don't you talk? Like, you are a mute." And it would just like hurt my feelings. But I just didn't grow up talking a lot. Like, I'm more perceptive. I would just be quiet. I was very shy in crowds.
Mhm.
Like, one-on-one, I could talk your head off. In crowds, very shy. And so as I moved up in my corporate career, when I started working at the state, within the first couple of weeks, I had to do a public speaking engagement, and I almost quit. I was like, well, this job is not for me. I cannot do this. And I had someone there who was in the audience, and I didn't even want her to be there, honestly. In some ways, I like, don't look at me. I had my note cards, and she was like nodding, like, "You're okay, you're okay." And then I realized, like, this is part of the job. I'm gonna have to do it like every week. And
Mhm.
so it turned me into knowing if I'm the expert on the stage, nobody really cares what I look like or what I'm saying or the cadence or the tone of voice, that I have. And so, of course, I was talking about money and federal compliance, which is a huge snooze fest. And even though, like, I think in this community I'm really soft and almost sweet. Like, at that job, I was sassy and funny, and so I tried to make like, I would create quizzes where I would trick the audience into thinking that they knew the answer to a compliance question and totally be like, "You are absolutely wrong. Why are you managing any money?" Like, and they would just laugh because it's like, who does that? Like, and
Mhm.
I just wouldn't stand up and talk about federal regs, and so people just, I don't know, they started gravitating towards me, and I just felt like, "Okay, like, I can do this public speaking thing, and I have to do it," and then I'm confident because I know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
and so but it's always been scripted. It's always been like with every job I've had and the job I have now, like, I can't just talk about what I wanna talk about. I have to talk about what is required for the job,
Mhm.
and so with building my own business and this entrepreneur thing, I'm able to talk about what I want to talk about, but I have already put in the reps for the past 10 years.
Mhm.
And so, a couple people asked me to speak at local meetups, and I didn't even know how that was going to go, but I stood up and I talked, and it was a hit. And I was like, well, I like this.
Huh.
And then I've been asked to speak a couple times since then. And I felt like my story just really resonated with people. And it gave me joy to impact people.
Mhm.
And I don't, I think that's what I've always been about. And that's what I've always wanted to do. So in my W-2, it impacts people because it makes them successful at their careers.
Mhm.
But for here, it impacts people personally.
Mhm.
And um, and that's very fulfilling for me. It also helps me meet other people and help other people, and that's the end goal. Like, I think that should be everybody's goal. Like, not just to be successful on your own business, but I want to be successful with people, for people. I want them to be successful, and I it's just fulfilling.
Mhm.
So that became one of my goals. Like,
Mhm.
people said it impacted them, and words of affirmation is for sure my love language. And if you tell me that, then I am going to go hard into that. And so
Mhm.
I was like, I think I can do this.
Mhm.
And so I'm taking little bitty reps there,
Mhm.
to get on bigger stages for sure.
Awesome. And do you wanna stay in the investment side world of things, or do you have plans to move outside of that, or where do you feel like those stages are at?
Um, I definitely want to do a TED Talk at some point. I think someone described it like this to me, and it really the visual really helped me. They said it's kind of like a tree. Like you have your story, you have your main thing, but then you'll have branches based on
Mhm.
the audience, based on where you're going, where your career has changed. And so I can't really answer that, but I think some things will change. I think it won't always be about investment.
Mhm.
Maybe it'll be about finding your purpose in life, and I think that's what I love talking about the most anyway. So, yeah, I think it'll change a little bit,
Mhm.
but as long as it's impactful.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I mean, and that goes back to who you are fundamentally is just loving people and wanting to help, yes, but impact is definitely the more appropriate. Or being able to use your experience to help someone else move forward faster, and I think that'll be fantastic. And you're awesome on stage, and you are fun, and you have a good sense of humor, and I love that you're able to let that shine a little bit more and let that witty person out and a little bit more. So,
Thank
Amber, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today and just impacting me because I love you and I've learned a lot today and we'll be taking some nuggets home for sure. So tell us, for anyone else who is really interested in connecting with you, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Instagram is the best place. It's my name, Amber McCollum, and, yeah, follow me there.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, everyone. Okay,
Thank you.
go friend her. Yes.
Kimberly, thank you so much. Like, I've enjoyed it, and I love you too, and I just wanna carry this friendship so far into the future. So, thank you so much
No,
for having me.
we will for sure. All right, everyone. Until next time, have a good one.